Step into the good life. That's the invitation and motto for Louisville in Winston County, Mississippi. Louisville is a gateway to central, eastern, and northern Mississippi. The motto seems to work, as the busy town has produced a pretty powerful punch on the Mississippi landscape. Professional baseball player Marcus Timms, honored successful coaches like Van Chancellor, Andy Kennedy, Matt Mitchell, and Mark Hudspeth, Olympic athlete Kobe Miller, all call Louisville home. Cunningham was not pushed into athletics as a young man, but developed his instincts and skills by playing ball for long hours with his friends in the front yard of their Louisville home.
I started playing, out there in the front yard, and we had a lot of people that we had a good many people in the area, right in the area that could play with us. We'd play a little touch football and stuff like that.
Cunningham found a niche as a kick returner at Louisville High School, where he had a stellar career, earning him Southern, All-State, All-Conference, and MVP honors, while leading Louisville to a state championship in 1962. His exploits on the high school gridiron are to this day relived in conversations around the water coolers and in break rooms every fall. Those who respect and remember it best are the opponents he scorched in the early 60s.
Steve, tell me about the first time you ever saw Doug Cunningham.
Well, that's a bad experience on my part. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was from a little town called Newton, and we played Louisville in football. We were in the same conference. And I'd never heard of Doug Cunningham, and so we went up there in the school bus to play him. And we lost the toss, and they got to open the kickoff, and we kicked off, and Doug caught it and ran to the left and ran to the right and ran a touchdown. So they kicked off to us, and we ran 3 plays and putted, and Doug caught it, and he ran to the left and ran to the right and ran a touchdown. So they kicked off to us, and we ran 3 plays and punted. Doug caught it and ran to the left and ran to the right and ran for a touchdown. So we were down 21 points, and they'd never had an offensive play yet.
Louisville is close enough to see the lights of Davis-Wade Stadium about 30 miles away. Close enough to imagine him playing for the Bulldogs. But heralded Ole Miss coach John Vaught convinced Doug to travel up Mississippi Highway 9 and play wingback and tailback for the Rebels from 1964 to 1966. But at Ole Miss, Cunningham's magical ability to return kicks again took center stage. Coach Vaught's wisdom was never more evident when, in the 1966 season, Cunningham's fourth-quarter punt return and a 1-yard plunge for a touchdown rescued the Rebels in a 14-7 come-from-behind win over a determined Southern Mississippi squad. Sitting in the stands that day was a young boy who never forgot that punt return. That youngster was writer John Grisham, who wrote about it in a piece called The Return.
When I was a sophomore in college and Doug was a senior, homecoming, we played Southern. And that year, we won our first 2 games. We lost 2 close games to Georgia and Alabama, and we played Southern for homecoming. And it was just an ugly game. I mean, I think there were 2 first downs the first half. It wasn't good. And then they blocked a punt and scored. Southern blocked a punt on Ole Miss, and they scored and went up 7-0. And so late in the fourth quarter, we held them. They punted, and Doug made one of the greatest runs. I mean, it compared real well to Billy Cannon type thing, and scored a touchdown. And then we kicked off, held them, and went down, and he scored the winning touchdown then.
Cunningham led the Rebels in punt returns all 3 years, ranking 3rd in school history with 941 yards on 81 career punt returns and 3 touchdowns. His 8 returns against Southern Miss in '66 stood as a Rebel record until 2008, when Marche Green returned 9 against Mississippi State. His 44.7 yards per return for 3 or more returns in a game still ranks second best all time behind Deuce McAllister's 52.7 versus Arkansas in 1999, and he ranks 12th in career kickoff returns with 35 for 688 yards, 25.4 yards per return.
He was a slasher. He made you miss, but he broke a lot of tackles in his games at Ole Miss. He probably broke more tackles than any runner that had been up at Ole Miss that I knew of.
In his Ole Miss career, he accumulated 2,910 yards, including kickoff and punt returns, rushes, and pass receptions, and averaged 8.4 yards every time he touched the football.
Doug was such a great guy. He didn't feel like competition, It's just glad to get in there. And he did such, like I said, Doug, he was great. He was just a guy that just got a lot of things done. His cut, I can just see him now, cutting back. He was a slashing runner, and he made a lot of yardage cutting back on. He wasn't afraid to cut back against the grain. He just put his head down and go in.
Drafted in the 6th round in 1967, Cunningham played from 1967 to 1973 for the San Francisco 49ers before closing out his career with the Washington Redskins in 1974. In San Francisco, his roommate was quarterback Steve Spurrier. As a rookie, running back John David Crow gave Doug a nickname, Goober.
It was a televised ball game, and the guys in the locker room had nicknamed Doug Goober. And that's all after Gomer Pyle on the Andy Griffith show. They thought he talked like Goober and kind of looked like Goober, so they nicknamed him Goober. And I forget who they were playing, but Doug got into the dressing room and to put on his jersey, and it had Goober on the back rather than his name.
When I picked it up, and I said, "No, man, I ain't gonna wear this out there. I know." And then some of the other guys, John David Crow and those guys, they get up and say, "Oh, come on, Cunningham, get out there and wear that thing." And I said, "No, I don't do it." I said, "Okay, then I'll do it." And so I went. I was out there. We were out there warming up, and one of the coaches called me over there on the sideline and said, "What in the hell is you got on the back of your jersey?" I said, "Coach, I didn't do it. These other guys did that thing."
Cunningham was involved in the restaurant business as an owner of Swenson and Gridley's in Jackson, Mississippi, following his NFL career, and was inducted into the Ole Miss Sports Hall of Fame in 1994. His ability on the field as a return specialist and running back are well known, but the type of person and teammate that Cunningham was and is known for today are even more evident.
Doug's one of the nicest, humblest, sweetest guys in the world. Really nice man. Fun to be around, funny, and Doug is real dedicated, wants to do right by people, goes out of his way to help his friends. So he's been a great brother-in-law to have over the years.
Ladies and gentlemen, stepping forever into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, 2014 inductee Doug Cunningham.